Hello friends and students, I want to talk about what I think yoga is. I think yoga is calisthenics. It is body weight exercise in which you're using postures and leverage and awareness in order to cultivate your body and your bodily awareness. That's what I think yoga is. I do not think it is a fitness religion. I do not think it is a super spiritual system. I do not think it magically affects your body. So let's talk about a little history. Yoga, posture practice, as we know it, fitness yoga, was created in the 20th century, the early 20th century. It took a while to be popularized around the world, but in the 1960s and 70s, it became very popular in the United States with the introduction of Ashtanga yoga, Hatha yoga, Iyengar yoga, and a bit later, Bikram yoga. Eventually, some enterprising American instructors, such as Brian Kest, Doug Swenson, and Baron Baptiste, in the late 80s and 1990s, took Ashtanga yoga and Hatha yoga, and they put it into an aerobics class format. And that created the American style of Vinyasa yoga, of flow yoga, which is why we typically have an hour-long session. We typically have some kind of music playing, and we tend to go from one posture to the other in a sequence. So those are the characteristics of an aerobics class, not the characteristics of a more traditional yoga class, such as Ashtanga, or Iyengar, for that matter. So as you can see, yoga from early on was an invention, and it has been reinvented multiple times and seems to be reinvented ever more so with the proliferation of new styles of yoga created by this or that teacher. Now, those styles of yoga do serve certain populations. Forest yoga can be considered to be a bit more therapeutic for some. Rocket yoga can be more athletic and challenging for a certain group. But at its basis, it is still a fitness system. Now, I don't think that the spirit of Patanjali, who's associated with traditional yoga, the religion, is presiding over your Vinyasa flow class. He's not. I do think, however, some of the mind-body benefits that you receive from yoga are very real. I've experienced that in my body. I've seen my students experience that as well. So how are those benefits arising? They are arising from concentrating your attention on the movement and sensations of your body. That's it. Your skeletal muscles move because your brain tells them to move. Therefore, the more that you sense the muscles and the more you intentionally try to control them, the better mind-body connection you receive as a result. So I encourage you to practice mindfully. And that helps. It helps to know the anatomy and what structures you're actually sensing and what structures you're actually trying to engage in order to hold the position or move from one position to another. This kind of nuts and bolts approach is glossed over in a lot of commercialized yoga due to the limitations of the format, which is one instructor, 20 to 30 to 100 students. I've been in a yoga class that had 100 students. It was a disaster. But that is different than a more traditional pedagogical structure, such as I experienced in martial arts, where you have a smaller group of people, you have a sensei who is teaching you the movements and he's watching you and correcting that movement. And once you have mastered that movement, he teaches you a new one. Well, that's very different than your average yoga class experience, right? You show up, you get what the teacher programmed for that day, or you execute the same sequence as usual, such as in Bikram yoga or Ashtanga yoga. And you may or may not receive some instruction, which is a big downside of highly commercialized yoga. In fact, one of my previous jobs, I was told not to adjust people, not to correct people, basically not to teach, but just to, I don't know, be up there, not to demonstrate even. I'm like, well, what Like, what is my job supposed to be? Just announce a sequence and march people through it? No, it was very irresponsible, and it was unfortunate that it was largely a company policy. So, back to what yoga is. Yes, yoga is a fitness system. Yoga is very helpful for developing mind-body awareness. Can you achieve some kind of altered state of consciousness and peace in yoga? Yes, you can, but you can also experience that through other kinds of training, such as weightlifting. Cyclists tend to experience it a lot. Runners tend to experience it a lot. They get into a flow state where the usual chatterbox, judgmental mind disappears for a while, and you're just left with the kind of the pure activity itself. And that is a wonderful gift. And yes, you can arrive at that in yoga, and it's beautiful, but it doesn't make yoga some kind of amazing spiritual system. It doesn't. But as you can tell, I still believe in yoga, and I think yoga is a wonderful practice, both for myself and my students. Let's just be a little bit more realistic, I think, and materialistic about what it is.